What is going on, guys? Welcome to the Wednesday night live stream. This is coughing for him. Tonight we have on the one and only not so rookie Reefer. How you doing, buddy?
Not too bad. Yourself, Dad?
Pretty good,
Good to
thanks.
see you, by the way.
It's been ages, man. Ages.
It has. Thank you very much for having me on. I always appreciate being a guest. It's always amazing to just have a bit of a relax and have a chat, catch up.
Always good to chat, Reef. Now I do have to bug you a bit because you still go by Rookie Reefer, even though you've been a hardcore reefer for many years. So how long? Actually, first question: how long have you actually been into reefing?
Look, how long's no? It hasn't. It's been 10,000 years. No, it's Look, I've been into reefing for about I believe it's about 6 or 7 years now.
Okay. You've been into it since I've been into YouTube, so. I know it really has, hasn't it?
Time flies when you're having fun, as I say.
I know, right? So you're in Australia, so you're on the Aussie side of reefing. Now, is it a big scene out there? Like, is there a lot of Aussie reefers?
It didn't used to be. It's kind of, even looking at America, everything, you guys are America and Canada in a sense. You guys are probably a few years ahead of us. So when I could see frags being the major thing in America, 2 years after that, they basically were here. Before that, we just had colonies and stuff. People just kind of wanted to get corals in and out.
Wait a sec. That's not being ahead, man. You're like, you guys got frags. We just got colonies. Yeah, I'd say you're the head on that one.
Not really, because conservation-wise, it's a lot better. It's not exactly better the way the prices and stuff have gone, but conservation-wise, I know I definitely would have preferred to kill some little frags rather than colonies when I started. So
now
it's one of them things, isn't it?
That's fair. Now in Australia, are you guys? You can only have local corals, right? Or are you allowed to collect? Like, are you? I know businesses obviously are, but would you be allowed to go out and collect something if you had like a fishing license or something like that? Or is it something very specialized?
This is live, so no. No, I'm joking. Look, you wouldn't do it. It's something where some local people down to some rock pools go down and pick up a few zoas and whatnot. But it's really frowned upon, and so it should be.
That's fair.
It's something where this hobby isn't just a throwaway hobby, or it shouldn't be. That's kind of more of a freshwater thing, in my opinion. Anyway, you should move forward from that. So it's all these people that just want to get things there. I wouldn't say any advanced reefer would be no taking anything. And with the Australia thing, no, we're with CITES and everything the way it is, we're not able to import any inverts or corals into Australia from anywhere else. So anything available, being shrimp or snails or corals, that is all Australian source, whether it be WA, Queensland, or there is some from, that's basically where it mostly comes from, WA and Queensland.
So is there anything that you wish you could get that you can't get there?
100%.
Like,
I remember Sorry, you go.
No, go. No, I was just going to ask you. So, like, what's something that you're like, oh, I wish we could have this year?
Oh, there's thousands of things, because you guys are so far ahead in aquaculture. Well, not really even, I guess you could call it that. Just with coral propagation and whatnot, it's there's a lot more available over there. Whereas you've seen the scene kind of. Some of the corals that used to be available aren't so readily available anymore. And it's even stuff that I see over there go for $200. You'll be paying $1,000 here.
Oh, really? That big of a difference.
It's the opposite. I remember talking years ago, and it was a lot of the stuff I could get for $30 would be worth $200-300 over there. And that is still the case in some sense. But a lot of these exporters have realized that they can get that money for it overseas.
Yeah.
So the price has gone up to that basically over here. And then have the problem where we can't get some of the pieces that you guys have easily available. So that kind of throws a spanner in the works. If anything special comes up, it has a stupid high price on it.
Well,
you see.
I remember before with like acans, micro muses and stuff, where it'd be like dirt cheap over there, but they're a fortune here. So I mean, there is some trade offs on both sides for sure.
Yeah, well, I was talking to one of my mates. He has an amazing tank, and he has a Holy Grail Mike Marisa, and apparently people reckon it'd be worth well over 5 grand, and that's just kind of stupid to me. When
I
you
agree.
start talking one pieces like that, it really starts to be a pissing contest.
Yeah, I can never justify that. I just like it's pretty. I could care less what it's called these days, but
Hey, don't get me wrong. I've paid $700-800 for pieces that are special, bounce mushrooms and
yeah.
stuff like that. But it's it is what it is, isn't it?
Have you tried fragging bounce mushrooms?
Yeah. I've got a little yellow one that's probably my most special one that I have
Hmm.
2 or 3 of in that tank. Believe it or not, the mother was huge to start with, and
Yeah.
she had a massive foot that was out. So I was like, that's way too tempting. I'll just
Do you just
get a
do the little nicks in
scalpel.
it?
Yeah, just a few little cuts, and they walked off and whatnot. But you've got to be careful with that because a lot of the times they will reattach.
Hmm,
So that's interesting. But
that
the mother
is.
actually turned way smaller. So, and now one of the pups is bigger than the mother.
Oh,
So
crazy.
that's, yeah. And plus, the mother only has one bounce, the pups have about 10 to 15 type of thing.
Huh. So the pups are better.
Yeah,
They've got
pretty
the
much.
best aspects. So when
Fragging, hey, fragging works. Who would have thought?
I've never tried on a bounce, did you like cut a piece off, or did you just do a little tiny nick and let it do it on its own?
No, so the way it is, it's set up on a frag plug, which is on
Hmm.
a piece of rock, and it was kind of reaching off the frag plug onto the rock, so I
Yeah.
just slid a couple. Yeah, that's my method. Look, and I don't do it to all my mushrooms whatsoever, because it does tend. Seemingly, this is only my experience, but it seems like once you cut that foot, it's never reaching out the same amount as it is first before you kind
Hmm.
of go for that. Look, that could just be anecdote, like
Yeah.
that's just my experience, but it's
It, it's
just something to note.
it's funny because if you have the cheap mushrooms that grow like a weed, you take them off a rock, there's a tiny smidge it grows back, but like you have some expensive bounce, I'm like scared to touch it to risk killing.
Well, I got some cheap bounce over in that tank. I got some
Yeah.
$5 little Rhodactis that are just green, but since they've been in the tank, they've all started bouncing. But yeah, I don't want them to start becoming an issue because they're definitely open all the mushrooms in this tank. I had a mushroom problem recently.
Okay, so this is an interesting one. So you're saying it started to bounce, and I've had other ones that have started to get the little bubbles, and even a chalice had the little bubble, which is starting to make me question if is it because we're just pumping so much light at them these days that it's happening? What do you think?
I would suggest it's LED spectrum, but
Yeah.
who knows? It's one of them things where I haven't really talked to collectors to see if anyone's actually collected a bounce out in the wild or
Hmm.
whether it is a phenomenon that happens once they collect it in the facilities. So that'd be actually an interesting question to pose.
Yeah, I've seen it happen more under like heavy blues and more intense par. So I've always kind of questioned if that's like other people's experience as well or just mine.
Hey, I don't see it as a bad thing. None of my mushrooms are bouncy like these stupid sunset mushrooms where you can't even see the thing. They're just little subtle things, and I
Yeah.
kind of like it that way. So I'll keep it that way.
Yeah, that's
You
fair.
still see the coral.
Yeah. All right,
With
Ricky.
you said you had a chalice. Sorry to interrupt. You said you had a chalice bounce. What happened there?
There's just this little bubble starting to form in it.
But
Here.
has it fixed itself, or it's still bouncing? Or we shouldn't even call it bouncing at that point. That's like skin detached.
It's bubbling. Here.
Yeah.
Can I zoom in? I don't know if it'll focus on that.
I see white.
Yeah.
It's it's all
Here.
good. Let's move on.
Put in the effort. You can kind of see. A little
Oh yeah,
overexposed,
I
but
can definitely see it. Yeah.
yeah.
So it's still doing it. Have you
Yeah.
tried to pop it?
No.
No. You're
Just
gonna
see what
charge
happens.
extra for that one.
Yeah, it's special. Let it be. Let nature do its thing. I don't know. I always find it interesting, different things that happen. So,
My mum always called me special too. It didn't really make me special.
no,
No.
made
Although
you.
maybe I could be considered special. We'll see.
Hey, you never know. So, what are some things that you've like? What are some rookie lessons over the years that you've learned from your amateur days of reefing 7, 8 years ago to now? Like, what would you tell prior rookie?
Look, there's many things I've learned along the way. We'll go into that a bit later, but the main thing would be my biggest mistake ever.
Yeah.
100%, hands down, cannot deny it. Wish I didn't do it.
What'd you do?
Biggest mistake ever. Got into the hobby. The biggest mistake, hands down.
You know what though? If you weren't in the hobby now, like if you quit, I bet you'd miss it.
100%.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm kind of glad I went in so deep when I started. I started the YouTube channel just to document kind of my journey along the way a little bit. And because of that, in a sense, it's kept me in more because I feel the need to kind of keep it going and just, yeah, look, I still get a lot from it, but at the same time, I've just had a lot going on lately. So it's just tanks they've been in the back of my mind, really.
That's fair. Now, do you sell much for corals? Do you frag and sell much, or is it more just your own personal collection? Like, where are you at with that?
Yeah, look, I used to, but in a way, I'm really out of focus, aren't I?
That's okay.
I have to fix that in a second. So it's hard because you deal with the public. It's kind of off-putting in a way.
Just in general?
Yeah. I don't like people. Like, I do like people, but I really don't like people. So having people come to your house and then I had a dog and I had a person come to the house who didn't even have intentions. It was someone's partner.
Yeah.
And the person who was buying coral had come in and the person's partner saw my dog and went, I'm not coming inside if the dog's inside. And it's like, okay.
See you later.
We'll go do this. So just little things like that. It's like, no, this is my world. I don't really want to invite people in. I sell to a few friends and shops and stuff when I need to make a bit of space.
That's fair. I remember you used to do it more, so I was curious.
Yeah. No, it was something where I was trying to like just frag for everyone, and that's not going to work.
Yeah. So just for you now, Sal's in the chat. Biggest lesson: leave the tank alone. That is true. The less you mess with the tank, the more it kind of settles into its groove and seems to be happier. Can't argue that. So do you have your hands in the tank constantly? Or are you getting better at like not messing with it constantly these days?
I'm getting better at it, although it's one of them things where if you take the precautions and you're kind of doing things right, making sure you're rinsing off your hands, all that kind of stuff, I don't really see too many ill effects from having your hands in your tanks. Messing with stuff, on the other hand, moving stuff, doing all that kind of jazz, definitely that can mess with corals. Messing with your lights, like I just did this morning to turn them on for this stream. Yeah, probably shouldn't do that too often. So,
thanks for waking up nice and early, by the way. Since I know it's bright and early in your neck of the woods right now. Good morning.
Not early. Look, you make me sound bad, but I didn't go to 4 a.m. Didn't go to bed till 4 a.m. So it's early for me.
It's all relative, buddy. Well, it's evening for me, so it's early for you, so it's a big difference. So still good. Now,
yeah, that's right. It's so hard with the time difference and whatnot. It'll be good. It'll be good catching up on my stream because it will be kind of nighttime and then weekend for me, so we can relax a bit more.
It'll be switcheroo time. Okay, so all your tanks in there. Do you have more tanks on the go, or just the 3 that I see in like the thumbnail right now?
Yeah, just the 3 at the moment. Look, I've got tanks sitting out in the garage, been meaning to move them in and transfer things over, but it's starting that whole process. It's getting the tanks ready and all that kind of stuff, because all the tanks I'd have to have custom stands made for, and it's just a bit of a process. So I've had a bit going on lately, and that's just been at the back of my mind. So I have a 20 mil 4x3. Oh, it's about 4 or 5 by 3 foot tank out there, sitting there to replace this main tank.
Yeah. Did you
And
make it?
the other, yeah, 100%.
Nice.
And
Attaboy.
there's another frag tank, probably about a meter by 60 or something, to replace this tank over here.
Nice.
And I'm thinking about, just because the only reason why I have 3 tanks was to do a 2-step quarantine. And now look, quarantine is not, it's not quarantine in this room. So don't get me wrong. I've got this quarantine, which is my, well, I can't even point the right way. It's so confusing with the camera. It's like a mirror, isn't it? Yeah. Mm-hmm. So this tank is my first quarantine tank, and that's kind of within a meter of my main tank. So it's not quarantine in here. It's just observation. It's checking for pests, all that kind of stuff.
Okay. So lesson learned from Rookie here. Did you have a big pest issue in the past? Something that made you decide to go through all those quarantining steps and multiple tanks?
Every single thing in the hobby I've seen, mate. Pretty much. I've had flatworms, I've had nudies, I've had brapses, I've had what do you call the little green things that come out of tubes?
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Okay, so
I've had all sorts of stuff. I've even found a snail that was in the same family as one of the dart snails that kills you. So
nice.
gotta be careful.
Well, I guess you probably got a lot more direct wild stuff out there, I'm assuming. So you probably got a little more adventurous stuff coming in.
Yeah, no doubt. I think it's a lot of the places over in America too will do more steps in their quarantining, or even quarantining in a sense. Because they're getting it in from overseas, they've got a lot invested in their facilities, whereas I feel like it's done to a certain extent over here, but it is a bit more kind of get it in. And,
that's fair.
Move it on.
Now, do you dip your corals as well, or you just observation and go from there?
Yeah, no, 100%. So I've got, I normally just go with kind of a basic dip. So just an iodine and what's that 2 little fishies one?
Revive.
Yeah, I kind of just start with that, see where I go. If something looks worse, I'll take more drastic measures for sure.
Yep. All right. Then how long do you rotate from tank 1 to tank 2 to main tank?
Look, it's been months in between, admittedly. So it's how lazy I get, and it's how much I want to buy corals, because as soon as I buy corals again, I got to reset. So it's a stupid process. In my head, it's for a reason. So many people look at me and think you're an idiot. So I don't really care.
Okay.
But at the same time, I've still got vermidits in my main tank. I don't have any aptasia or anything like that. But I've still got vermidits in there. They got in somehow.
That's fair. Okay, so it goes into quarantine for an undisclosed amount of time until you buy new coral, or one day motivated to move into the next quarantine, and stuff just shuffles as you need the space.
Precisely. As I said, I kind of mess up a lot, and I get new corals. That's why I do these little quarantine tanks that were only ever meant for about 5 pieces, end up with 20 to 30 pieces in them, at least, sometimes even more. Yeah. And that can be bad. That can be real bad. That's probably one of my biggest lessons learned, and I still haven't learned from it. Apart from the fact I don't stock them with acros. I used to do that back in the day, and I've learned my lessons from there. It's too hard to keep stable something that small.
Yeah, it is a pretty tiny. Now, do you have dosers and all that stuff on it? Do you test it, or you just get water changes once in a while? Nothing?
Yeah, no, 100%. Everything's tested. Everything's dosed. But at the same time, it's hard to feed in such a small tank, and there's so low biomedia in them. It's something that I need to improve. So it's hard to actually, this one I can't get to budge off like triple digit zeros. So I
Yeah.
shouldn't say that, but that one there I've struggled with in the past.
Hmm.
At the moment, it's only zero point zero 0.03 or something like that.
Yeah, that's fair. So new tanks coming in, they're going to replace your main one and your, I guess, secondary quarantine.
Yeah, so I'm looking to probably just simplify things and just turn it into two tanks. That's something that'll make my life a hell of a lot easier. Cleaning three tanks, dosing three tanks, testing three tanks is a lot harder than two.
Why don't you just do one big display and then like one observation slash quarantine?
Yeah, that's what I'll be
Okay.
doing. That's what
Yeah.
I'll be doing.
That's a good way to go. Now, okay, so you're starting to make acrylic stuff, what I think is pretty sweet because I've always been interested in, like, it's fun building stuff out of acrylic. Now, you said you made your tanks, which I think is pretty sweet. Is it?
Yeah, well, that's saying something because I built this 7 years ago and it's still standing. That was the first ever acrylic thing I ever made. I jumped in the deep end, so
Very
and
first
it's
project,
still
build a
got
tank.
it. Exactly. You can see that
Nice.
it has a little dodgy brace that I put in the middle once I noticed that it was bowing a little bit because I didn't know what I was doing, so I didn't brace it. I figured this kind of rimless tank was a new in thing at the time, so yeah,
Yeah,
that looks fancy. I didn't know any better, so but she's still going strong.
that's
The
awesome.
problem is the stand. The
Hmm.
stand I didn't think about. I got into the hobby trying to be budget, trying to do everything as cheap as I could. So I used a secondhand stand and just sprayed it up. And let me say, all that paint is probably flaked into the sun.
Now, would would you still do a budget if you did it again now, or would you do something fancier? What would you do?
I wouldn't. I wouldn't really change too much because I don't
Yeah.
think it would have changed my experience much.
Hmm.
And it's kind of it's made me the reefer that I am in a sense.
Yeah.
And I'm glad for that. It's kind of hard, but because I'm trying to sell, like as you mentioned, that I started in business selling acrylic stuff,
Hmm.
and even like my products aren't cheap. They're like in Australia, it's hard, it's expensive to produce. It's
Yeah.
manufacturing everything. I import custom made magnets, all that kind of stuff, like
Hmm.
copper free, everything. So it's not cheap to do. Um, so it's hard for me in a sense with my mindset the way it used to be, budget reefer trying to sell
Yeah.
this stuff, but I know there's a market out there for it for sure because it's stuff that's needed to help with propagation and
Hmm.
stuff that really means a lot to me, trying to make this hobby a bit like last into the future because it's looking a little bit dim.
I yeah, I think a lot of the future stuff is going to be based off, people growing and trading and selling frags, and maybe we'll get to the point where we're spawning coral frags to trade off, and hopefully cool hybrids, and who knows what at that point. But okay, before we get too into this rabbit hole, I had a question. With you, that's your first ever acrylic thing you made, and now I know you make super fancy like dosing containers and frag racks and all kinds of stuff. On your newer tank, what have you done differently from the OG acrylic project tank that's still alive?
So it's
Would
Euro braced for one.
Yeah, makes
um,
sense.
but look, way different things. In this, I put the overflow to an angle because I thought I put it so close to the end, should I say, because I thought I was saving myself room.
Hmm.
Whereas I should have just done an external overflow. And I can never get my hands in there whatsoever. That's why I still have a vermilion problem because seeing the pipes and getting in there, you
Yeah.
stab yourself in the tips of the finger and you're like, damn it, and just give up on that job for another
Hmm.
day.
Yeah,
And then they multiply again, the bastards. All right.
they're never
So
good.
look, a tank is a tank.
Hmm.
It's basically like 5 panels,
Yeah.
and there's not much difference that you can innovate into a tank.
Hmm.
That's something where, look, not so innovative, my other products, but it's stuff that's not available. Been setting up the business, my brain capacity's been a little bit low. So that's something where I plan to do a lot more later when I have the time to develop new ideas and all that kind of thing, kind of make sure we check with everyone what products are wanted and that.
So is there any cool things that you've come up with to like solve your own issues that have been stuff to make reefing better experience for you?
Everything I offer, I use.
Okay,
So
yeah, but like,
that was it.
but when you're like, I need one of these, and then you build it, and you're like, oh, I should sell this. This is cool. That's how it starts.
Well, it's kind of like I've had the equipment to be able to do it for a fair while now,
Mm,
a couple of years. So I've been building this stuff for a couple of years for my tanks,
yeah.
and I got laid off during COVID. I couldn't find a job, so I decided to start and do a cert foreign business.
Mm,
And it's yeah, it's just changing your mindset into doing business from an employee.
yeah.
But ever since then, just been keeping at it, just pushing stuff out. I've done a lot of stuff for local shops
Nice.
and whatnot, even before I started the business, just things that they needed. And I saw there's certain products that you just can't get in Australia. You can order them from AliExpress, but 3 weeks wait, and who wants to send something back to China? And I don't know. I just figure it's I like to support Australian companies. If the products are available here that I wanted beforehand, there's no doubt I would have bought them,
Yeah.
even at the price, whether I thought it was expensive or not. Because in comparison,
Mm,
you've got to remember an acrylic sheet, for instance, over in America that costs $100 is $200 here. So
double.
it's hard to go. Yeah, practically that. So.
Oh, that's crazy. Now, like, just I'm curious, like, what kind of stuff would in the reefing hobby, I guess, like, what kind of stuff is not generally available over there that you would find or harder to get?
It's getting better nowadays.
Yeah.
If you're not picky about what you want,
Hmm.
you can for sure get most of the things that you need for a reef tank.
Yeah.
But I kept seeing comments online, one of the major suppliers of acrylic stuff, people just saying they couldn't get a response, all that kind of stuff. So that kind of was just a bit of a brain worm that got in there and went, well, maybe I can do this. Maybe I can do. I've done a lot more custom stuff, so it's not just what's on the website and whatnot. I can basically do anything.
Anything you need, you get it. Bucani or Marco rocks from starting new build. I've used Marco. I've never used Bucani.
I've got to focus this camera, man. It's bugging me.
All right, man. So, what's your favorite type of coral that you can get over there?
Look, I'm still very fond of acans.
Yeah.
Acans and mushrooms have been kind of my go-to recently.
Hmm.
But admittedly, that was kind of one of my biggest lessons is that I was thinking of is I had this quarantine tank over here and I put out a video on it actually. It was a
Yeah.
fair while ago, but you could see how many acans were physically in the tank. There was quite a few colonies. And I decided that there was this one coral that I couldn't not take home from the LFS, but it had bright pink, fluoro pink in the skeleton,
Hmm.
not in the flesh, but in the skeleton. I've got a picture of it if you want to. Yeah. Anyway, and it was the most bizarre thing. I thought it was a special coral. I thought, wow, what's this? That's why I took some pictures of it. Turns out 2 months later, the whole tank basically had polyp bailout. I got is
Oof.
pink line syndrome.
Dang.
Yeah, so that definitely affects the ACANs and any kind of LPSs along that polyp bailout route. So that whole tank kind of went down, and I lost a lot of ACANs there. And ACANs I can't really replace nowadays. Colonies of stuff that you get frags of for
Yeah.
200, $300 a frag now.
That sucks. Okay. So,
Yeah.
if acans and mushrooms are like the top ones that you like keeping, and you probably keep the most of those, what would be your top tips for mushrooms and acans? Like keeping them happy or getting them to grow or better color out? Any Aussie secrets?
That's probably why I like them, because they're simple. Look, I've I've killed, and I this sounds horrible to say, but I can
just
admit it. I've killed too many acros in my time. Sorry. Um, so in a sense, you've got to go towards what you can keep easily,
mm,
and that. Look, as I said, just with the quarantine process, it's so hard getting them through quarantine. So I've gone against the acro route lately. I don't really have any acros. I do have like some hammers and all that kind of stuff. Some I've got some SBS. I've definitely got a bunch of SBS, just no acros.
mm,
And the one tip I would say for acans, and everyone knows this, just feed them.
yeah.
They love aminos. They love trace. Pretty much the same as most things. A lot of corals will not eat the amount that an acan can.
Eight, eight,
You can feed it.
mhm.
It'll feed, and then you could almost feed it an hour later, less than. If
I
you've got a
find
little bit
feeding
left
makes
in
a
the
big
chip, that's
difference.
what I always
Yeah.
do, and they will. They'll eat twice.
Mhm. You said you dose trace elements for them as well,
Yeah,
or
look,
just feed?
I'm not straight on it, and I don't test too much for my trace. I've never done an ICP. I see the value in it, but as I said, I've got enough things to spend my money on at the moment.
Randomly dump
And
stuff
that,
in. I know you
no,
work.
look,
You're just
I
like,
only I only ever use Coral Essentials range.
yeah.
It's an Australian company. I know Christian and Shane very
I
well.
think I have some of that actually.
Both Yeah, both legends of the trade. I
Mhm.
trust what them guys are doing, and I always stay kind of just below the dosing rates. As I said, it says the daily dosing rates. I'm maybe dosing it 3 times a week.
Yeah. Yeah. Fair. All right. So, so you underdose trace elements, which is a safe way to do it if you're not testing, right? Feeding acans is definitely a big plus. Mushrooms, I guess you don't really need to do anything special for them. They're pretty good survivors.
Yeah, look, you can get bacterial infections. I've had that happen along the way, and in that case, I would advise. That's basically one of the only times I'd advise antibiotic use.
Mm-hmm.
You guys with the bloody antibody dip. I wouldn't advise that with every coral, that's for sure. It's a bad way to introduce, um, yeah, we all know what.
Mm-hmm.
But in saying that, there's certain things which, yeah, as bacterial issues, I've had mushrooms melt away before, so I've come to a process where I can basically get at least 95%
Now,
survival rate with that.
if you think you have a bacterial issue, what do you do about it? Is it like an iodine dip, or do you do something else?
Look, I've got no idea what causes it. I've only ever had it a few times, and it's
Mm-hmm.
been in times that I've lacked maintenance on my tanks. So, admittedly, it's something where you get signs of it coming, especially with mushrooms. You'll see, obviously, them being a lot smaller than normal.
Mm-hmm.
They will actually start from either the foot or an edge. They'll start to just kind of start to do their little roddy thing, and they'll have kind of white flesh instead of their colored flesh.
Mm-hmm.
It's quite hard to see at the start, but if you can catch it early enough,
Yeah.
there's basically no issues with it. It's just once you get to that brown sludge stage, which they do, it's not a brown jelly, it's just another bacterial thing.
Yeah.
Maybe you could call it brown jelly. But that's what will eventually do if you have it. What will happen if you have bacterial issues and your mushrooms get affected? They will just basically shrivel and turn into a brown melted pile, and they smell like butthole. So that's great too.
So, okay. So if that starts happening, what would you do to try and save it and prevent it?
As I said, there's a few different types of antibiotics you can dose. I'm
Mm-hmm.
not gonna put that information out here because I feel like people just kind of use what they want and
Yeah.
take it. I'm doing a video on it soon, and I have all the information written down properly with all the dosing rates. So that's
Mm-hmm.
something where later down the track, um, you can check on the channel if you do have that kind of issue, and there should be a solution for that problem.
Like holding out on us. You're holding out your secrets for the video.
Look, it's just certain types of antibiotics, isn't it? And at certain
Yeah.
rates for certain times of period. So you take that with a grain of salt. You can kind of, and my method wasn't the right method. It's just the method that worked for me.
That's fair.
So
in general, if I know something has a bit of a bacterial issue, like iodine's a nice, easy, safe one that most people have. Easy to use. I did try that KFC dip, which is some hardcore antibiotic sledgehammer, which did work pretty well on my torch because I haven't lost a single head, or it's been fine ever since. So, I mean, it definitely did work. Niagara Fire Corals, dedicated reefer. Thank you guys for the super chat. Much appreciated. So that's kind of what I'm saying.
Thank you for supporting the cause. Devin puts a lot of effort into these streams. Everyone that just comes and watches, it's such a nice thing to just come and tune in, and then you get to go and whatnot. Setting these things up on back end, it takes hours. So give him some love. At least hit that thumbs up. Anyway, if not for
Thanks,
me,
buddy.
for him.
Labor of love. Thanks, buddy. Appreciate it. And yeah, you've done some live streams. You know what goes into it.
Oh, just editing, just YouTube in general. People think, oh, you just push a video out there and it gets views. This is not how it happens, guys.
It's definitely a long haul. Labor of love. Yep. Okay, I have another random question. With the mushrooms and like nicking the foot or chopping a little bit off to try and frag a mushroom, have you ever had bacterial issues after that? Because I kind of half wonder, if you're, putting a little laceration in something, if there's already something funk in your tank. Have you ever had any bad experiences after?
No, they were never related. Yeah. Look, it would have been probably, I wouldn't have done that process for when I had the bacterial issue, probably at least 6 months prior. Okay. So I can't see the two being related. It's hard because in a sense you want an answer, and I want to be able to give people an answer, but of why these things happen. But it's the same as so many things in this hobby. We just don't have the knowledge, or it's not experience, but we just don't know what's going on deep down with certain processes in our tank. These things we're trying to make a mini ocean. Yeah. And the ocean is one of the main things that keeps this world going. So there's so many processes that happen in that place that we just don't even understand yet. We're getting better at it, but we don't have, I don't think we have the brain capacity to figure it all out. I certainly don't, that's for sure.
Baby steps, buddy, baby steps. I mean, we are getting better. Like if you look at the history of the hobby, like people over time are getting more and more successful. As we understand different concepts, the gears is doing a better job, so it's helping us be more successful. So there's a lot of things that are over time improving, for sure.
No doubt. It's just the ocean's so vast. There's so many thousands of things going on in that every second of every day. And there's certain things we've got to be missing out on.
So speaking of the ocean and you being right beside the Great Barrier Reef, how often do you actually go like snorkel or dive or go check it out? Like how far away is it from you?
Not often enough, because I don't enjoy getting on planes. Look, I do it, but
so it's a bit away. Okay, yeah, fair.
That was just leading on to most times I'll go somewhere, I'll drive, and in saying that, the closest part of the Great Barrier Reef is at least kind of 6-7 hours away from me. Okay. So it's not like I'm half an hour down the road and just not going down. But look, I'd like to be doing it a lot more. It's something where ever since being a child and going snorkeling, it's just been that instant.
Yeah. The video posted from whatever, Harla something or other island. What's it called?
That was the last video that I did.
The one I watched like a week ago. Heron Island.
Yeah, that was Heron Island.
Yeah, so that's a Great Barrier Reef, right? Yeah.
That's the start of the Great Barrier Reef, basically, as we know it. There's other bits of the reef a little bit more south than that, which is closer to me. Yeah. But in saying that, I'm kind... Yeah.
So I dragged some coral over you, sorry. But look at this.
No, all right.
To me, this looks amazing. Like, I would love to go diving there. Like, look at all that coral. It's crazy.
It was pretty spectacular. It's something that you have to, if you're a reefer,
Yeah.
even if, look, it's something where I was petrified of sharks before I went. Absolutely petrified because I've never swum with sharks before.
Yeah.
I've been out on the reef snorkeling and whatnot. But once you're out there, you don't think about sharks. You've got too much to look at that you can't process anything else. Even if there was a shark behind me, I wouldn't have even been kind of concerned about it because
Well,
once you get out there,
Yeah.
everything else just kind of melts and you're just struck by the magnificence of yeah, you're
Yeah.
struggling there getting it to play.
Oh, no, I'm just clicking that. I don't want the audio to overlay us.
Oh, okay, yeah, you can't turn it down.
Yeah, I'm just clicking.
Yeah.
But so you're buddies with the
Stop.
sharks
people,
now?
People need to go. People need to go. Just chuck it out themselves.
Yeah.
um, yeah, sharks. Sharks are fun. Black tip sharks are fun. I'll clarify that. It's something where I wouldn't be out there swimming with a bunch of bull sharks. That's for sure. That's not advised. But
I've
even these
dived.
little black tips, they're so much fun. They're more scared of you than you are of them.
Yeah, like I've dived with black tips, white tips, and saw some hammer tips, but none of them felt like over intimidating. Like they didn't even.
Tips.
Yeah, hammerheads.
Hammer tips. What's that one?
Yeah, hammerheads. But like the white and black tip like reef sharks, like they didn't care I was there. Like you're literally like in this area, like 30 of them. They're just hanging out. Like they don't even care. They're like, oh, there's somebody, whatever.
What a magnificent trip, hey! I didn't. I thought it was going to be good. It's one of the biggest coral cays in the world. Which a coral cay is. Where's my camera? A coral cay is kind of an oval-ish shape. It's just that rough shape where coral goes all around the ring of this oval. That's just what a coral cay is.
I've never even heard of that before. Okay.
Yeah, so it's one of the biggest ones in the world, and it's just spectacular. I only got the chance to see probably 5% of it. The problem with a lot of the places that you'll go in Australia from being a tourist is you'll go out from Cairns, which is the main place where everyone goes out to see the Great Barrier Reef, and there's 150, 200 people on each of the boats. It's 4 boats at each place. These parts of the reef get decimated. I hate to say it. They really do. The human interaction is a bad thing. It's something where, as you said, we don't mess with our tanks too much. We shouldn't be messing with the ocean that much. It's hard because it's tourism. It brings in so much money. It's how people see the reefs. It's how people get involved in it. And as I said, it's something that you need to do before as a bucket list thing if you're into reefing, because until you see a spectacular reef for yourself, you just got no idea. You'll be out there for as long as you can, 6 hours, until your arms are about to fall off. Like, when I was up at Great Barrier, up in Cairns last time, at least I didn't do it on this recent trip, but there was a turtle right down the bottom, and it was about kind of 10 meters at least where we were, and I was free diving down to it, and I kept pushing further and further, and I went too far and blew both my eardrums.
Oof.
That wasn't. So I was stuck up at Cairns, blown eardrums, trying to do a conference for a marine conference, so that was interesting.
Oh, dang. Yeah, that's no fun. Yeah, I don't know. I'm jealous that you get to go diving. I'd love to go diving there.
Look, even just everything else that was involved in the whole location, the birds, the other animals, the turtles. The
turtles are cool too. That's pretty cool.
On night walks and saw baby turtles, hundreds of them. It was something I'll never forget, and I will be back there. Look, we're going to plan a trip. It's not cheap getting out there, but Heron Island is, I think, about 50 nautical miles offshore.
Yeah.
So it's out in the middle of nowhere, and if
that's
it's
cool though,
it's more fun season, you're stuck out there. So it's interesting.
I would rather do that though than be on a boat with 200 people smacking with their fins trying to look at the reef. Right? It's a way
Look,
better experience, I'd
100%.
say.
We had the island to ourselves at so many points.
Mm,
And look, I don't want to talk the place up because I don't want people to visit and ruin it. But but there's so many places in the world like that that you
yeah.
can go that are just amazing, and you kind of get a different experience from the normal reef experience. I would highly suggest it. There's a bunch of other islands that you can go and camp on.
Yeah.
Lady Musgrave being one. Northwest Island is a little bit higher. The problem is these islands are that far out that it's a I believe roughly about $300-400 per person to
Yeah.
get their return. So it's something you have to factor in. It's not that much,
Yeah.
but if you're already coming to Australia and you're
Then
doing all
that,
these
then
things,
that, then
yeah,
that.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. The Heron Island trip cost, I think, about for a bit over $4,000, so it wasn't
Yeah.
cheap,
Yeah. That's fair. Now,
and that was 3 days.
whew, that's expensive for
Yeah.
3 days. Okay, that's
Yeah.
not cheap. Now, did you go see the reefs and stuff? And did that get you into reef tanks, or did you get reef tanks first and then went to go see it after you're already into it? Like, what inspired what?
No, look, when I was way younger, as I said earlier, I've been snorkeling when I was probably from the age of kind of 6 a fair
Yeah.
few times. There was one specific tank that was at a doctor's that I used to go to as a child, and admittedly, I only ever went there 2 or 3 times. But it was probably about a 4 foot high by 6 foot by 2 foot tank, and it had no corals whatsoever, but the most amazing fish. Or as a child, I thought these fish were spectacular.
Yeah.
So it's something that really resonated with me, and it kind of, looking back on it, was probably something that made me think more into going into this hobby. But starting off, obviously, freshwater.
Hmm.
Admittedly, funny,
Yeah.
funny story. So my mum my mum used to have tanks in her house when I was a child, and it was only ever little fish type of thing. And I get to the age of 14, and I'm kind of lost teenager wondering what to do. And mum went away for a weekend, and I thought fish were cool. I thought fish were gonna like attract women or something. I was going to be like the cool person with a fish tank. So I'd pre-bought this 6 foot tank to put into my room.
Hmm.
Obviously, the mother didn't know about it or anything, so she went away for the weekend, and I moved this tank in. I'd already bought a few fish. I didn't know anything about the cycle or anything. I was ready to just set this tank up, and I moved it in with a friend, and we cracked one of the end panels.
Dang.
So, so, so anyway, I got some silicone. I siliconed it up. But what am I going to do with these fish? Well, Mum had a tank, right? So I stuck the fish in her tank, thinking,
Hmm.
oh, she won't really notice. I kind of fed her most of the time anyway, and she did it. She didn't notice for like a week. I got away with it, but a few of her neon tetras started disappearing. So she got she sussed out that there was a few extra cichlids in there, and she grew fond of them, so she didn't come back to me. So I had to buy more fish.
Just take their mind now.
Exactly. So I learned
Yeah.
my lesson there. So I had a 6 foot tank, freshwater tank, in my bedroom from being a 14-year-old, and I kind of had like aquascapes and that, and then I grew older, and turns out chicks like cars better than fish, so I got into cars. No, I like cars too. I was a mechanic when I was younger, so I got in right into the cars, and I kind of got well out of the hobby.
Hmm.
And many years later, now that the cops are a bit of an issue over here, I've grown a bit older and not wanting to just get thousands of fines every time I go out driving. My cars just stay in the garage, and I got into this hobby. So
Yeah.
it was yeah,
Saves tickets, more fun.
turn to the dark side.
The
I kind
salty,
of regret it.
the salty side.
Yeah, that's it.
Good times.
It's been an interesting journey, but
But do you
there's definitely
actually
been
regret it though? Do you actually?
no, not for a
Yeah,
second.
that's
Look,
exactly what.
when I got into a hobby, it was hard because I kind of got it in a sense. Look, this isn't the main reason why I got into it, but I'm watching all these videos. I did so much research. I did a year's worth of research before I even put water in my tank.
Mhm.
So I'm watching all these BRS videos and everything, telling me I can make thousands of dollars off chopping these little animals. So I'm like, yeah, I'm in. Hell yeah. Turns out it's not that easy.
Not especially if you don't like people.
No, no, precisely.
It goes that
Precisely.
fun. You're like, this
It's
is a
just
great plan,
people
but people have
come.
to come over. No dice.
If someone was coming and they were spending a bit of money, it'd be different. But it was at that point I was selling frags for $5 to $25 each. People were coming and spending less than $100. It wasn't, and it wasn't worth the time. It really wasn't.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's fair.
It's to friends now, pretty much.
I feel. So what do you think's the future for you, the hobby? What do you think? Do you see yourself getting more hardcore into it? Do you think yourself being just like, side hobby? Do you think you're gonna go more into building acrylic stuff? What do you think? What's the future for Rookie?
It's hard because I'm finding myself with less and less time,
Hmm.
and obviously we realize time is what makes these things run. You, as much as you can automate them, they still need the human touch. That's my belief anyway. And I say that from a point of never having any automation. So I'm probably
Oh,
just naive in
I
the sense.
I feed the tank and clean the glass. I don't do much else.
Yes,
Like once in a
true.
while I do, but not a regular basis, right? Like every few months I'm like, okay, I'll clean the sand bed or a water change every like 4 or 5 months. But on a daily basis, put Noreen in the morning, feed it at night with like some isis or some brief nutrition or some form of a protein, other food, and they get their veggies in the morning, and then clean the glass probably every other day. That's all I do. So it doesn't have
Well,
to be a
that
lot of work once the tank is established, right? The first year, obviously it takes a lot more work, but once it's been up for a year or more, I find it gets easier over time.
well, that's a problem in a sense. I love the classic look of a reef tank, the reef, the rock,
Mm-hmm.
the corals, the fish, all that stuff. But it's a whole lot of work, and especially when you're setting it up, having all that in the tank is just leads to nightmares. So in a sense, all my tanks aren't
Yours are more
display
frag
tanks.
tank
They're
style.
eight
Yeah.
precisely. They're all more of a tank style because I like to be able to see an issue, pull that
Mm-hmm.
coral out, and deal with it. It's something where it's just a process I've taken along the way, and I don't see that many apart from the fact of hey, another big lesson learned is make sure your corals are at least glued to something because the amount of corals I've had pushed into each other by
Oh,
tropists and you come back and half the coral's missing. It's like, yeah, that one's stronger than that one. Now I know.
yeah. I
So,
actually lost a head of gold torch the other day because something pushed it into an A can.
yeah, I haven't been game ever since. I had a nice gold torch in this tank. I had it in there for about 2 years and it was right next to a hammer that was for 2 years. It was perfectly fine. And then it could have been something else, but it just started getting issues and yeah, deteriorated into nothing
Ah,
as
yep.
they
No,
tend to. Them real pretty ones.
I know. No fun when they do that.
No, it's kind of hard, is it? Because in a sense we've learned a lot, but I feel like we've got a lot to learn. There's a lot of things that on a constant basis the average reefer can't keep alive, and that's bad to say.
Yeah,
It's
that's
getting much better with ICP, all these kind of things. People are kind of looking into their basics more.
mhm. Yeah, I would
Trace,
say
let's-
trace trace elements are an interesting one. I'd find you don't necessarily need to dose them, but I find things are happier and more vibrant if you dose them. That being said, if you don't dose them ever or do water changes ever, eventually I find it's going to bite you in the butt because you're going to be deficient on something that's going to be causing trouble.
yeah, 100%. It's yeah, it's one of them things. Been dosing a bunch of aminos. Coral seem to like that. It's only
Yeah.
something I've been doing for the last couple of years. I never did it previously. But it's hard to tell. Obviously, a lot of these things do stuff, but it's hard to tell whether it's actually doing anything or it's just your head. When corals
Now,
are looking really pretty, do I just stop it and see what happens?
have you found, yeah, like what difference have you noticed from dosing aminos?
Just maybe a little bit more polyp extension in the
Yeah.
OPS, more readily feeding.
Because I know some people swear by it. I've kind of go back and forth where I don't have it on a doser, so it's like some days I'll be motivated and dose it, and other days I just will forget about it for like a week or two, then I'll dose it again. So I'm very inconsistent with it.
And it's so hard to tell, isn't it? Because I've got two products that I dose at the same time, if I remember. And in saying that, that's where it's hard to figure out what's doing what, because it's aminos and a different product, which is again another Coral Essentials product called CVE, which is their black label range, which it's meant to give corals better colors and all kind of stuff. And I definitely believe it does something, but it's hard to tell what does what.
Yeah. I have one buddy that absolutely swears by aminos. Like he says night and day tells the difference if he stops dosing it. So never know. Be happy if someone breaks the code for RTN, STN. There was some products for that, but I don't know if they ever did anything that were supposed to stop and prevent it, but jury's still a little bit there. I find if you dose aminos, like, I guess some corals will see more polypy, you know. My one buddy says colors and the vibrance, the colors, everything just has better coloration, where it's more pale if he stops dosing it. That's what he tells me. I'm honestly not consistent enough to say.
Do you dose aminos yourself?
Sometimes.
Sometimes.
Not consistently. I should dose it daily for like a few weeks and see if I can tell. Like I used to have it on a doser, then it ran out and you just didn't do it again. And I don't know, I'm just a slacker on some of these things. I need to get back to being more consistent.
Be a good experiment for you.
Yeah. Do you guys use any KZ products? I used to use the Flatworm Stop and the Coral Booster at a half dose for quite a while. And again, they ran out. I just haven't bothered putting them back in. So I did for a while. That's
a hard thing. I see lots of videos that say all these products that are doing so many good things, they're not available in Australia. A lot of the Brightwell stuff, a lot of
So here's the interesting thing. In like the tank beside me, like I have some hair algae that I'm battling a little bit right now. So I added a couple tuxedo urchins and they're just absolutely machines against it. And they're doing a fine job. So this tank's getting closer to being back to pretty again. My big tank, I got tons of corals in there that are just growing into each other. Like they're almost growing too much now. So I'm like, do I want to scale back to slow things down a little bit? Like, should I pull off the CO2 median stuff? Because I'm like, I'm just gonna have to be fragging like crazy now. Like, you know, some corals in the tank I want to grow, but there's also tons of big ones that I'm like, they're growing almost too fast now. So it's an interesting turning point on the mindset from tank to tank.
Look, at the end of the day, your tank's the same size. So the coral, when it starts growing, you're not going to have space for it at the end of the day. So it is an issue in the long term. If you're growing corals and you're trying to push all these things up, well, what are you trying to grow so much for? If you're giving it away and doing all that, but if pieces are just bumping into each other and perishing anyway,
yeah,
what's the point, really?
Yep, I know. What aminos did you use? Acropower. I used tons of in the past. I have used the Red Sea one that looks like antifreeze, whatever it's called. I did try the other. I think it's the same one you have, actually.
Yeah, that's what I use. Coral Essentials aminos.
Yeah, I believe I have Coral Essentials as well. But yeah, I'm just really bad at dosing them daily, so it's hard to say definitively. Yeah.
Yeah, as we said, it's without the one good thing about some of these products they're starting to bring out, apart from aminos, is For instance, this CDE that I was referencing before, they used to have a black label range, which was Chroma, Vibrance, and something else, but they used to have to be refrigerated. So a lot more companies are putting R&D into making these things able to be put on a doser,
Yeah,
which is a lot
that's key.
handy.
That is key. Like
Yeah.
I honestly might do it tonight because I know I have a couple liters of Aquapower that I bought in bulk a while by. Like I should just put on a doser, and then I can watch over the next few weeks and see what kind of changes I notice.
Acro Power's real OG, isn't it?
Yeah.
It was one of the original ones around, that's for sure, and it's one that I've definitely used in the past. I just somewhat being that I wasn't dosing it, it's so much easier to put a drop in of these more concentrated bottles
Yeah.
nowadays rather than 5 mils, having to get the syringe and do all that kind of stuff. So
Well,
it's
if you're
that
manually
was-
dosing, yes.
yeah.
If it's on a doser and you can ignore it, it's which ones are shelf stable and don't need to be refrigerated.
Hey, we're all not rich here, all right? I'm a frugal man. I got to do what I can do, all right?
Well, I have all this
We make
Aquapower.
do.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta do. So we'll see. And I've also been doing intermittently again. Like some days I'm really good, other days I'm terrible and forget for days. But dialing all the trace elements. So actually, I want to get back. It's on my to-do list. I might set up an ICP and then like try and get back to my daily trace elements because stuff was looking extra good when I was doing it. So
Yeah,
goals.
it's just getting the time and effort, isn't it? Like these people that spend an hour a day on their time, they're definitely going to see the rewards in the end because it's something where the more you put into your tank effort-wise, the more you get out for sure.
Well,
But as you said, with automation nowadays, it's something where it's growing easier and easier.
it's
I
okay.
spend enough corals. I don't want to spend $2,000 on a thing. I can just do it myself.
Yeah, no, here
As
you
long as
can.
you're reliable enough.
Okay, now I'm just throwing you under the bus here because yeah, you can do it yourself, but you actually have to do it yourself for it to happen. But I know what you mean. Same thing. I automate stuff because I know I'm a slacker, and you know I have like a baby now and everything else, and life gets crazy, so it doesn't always happen. That's life. But now the other thing is, you know, your tank can be 90% of the way there without doing all this stuff. A lot of the stuff is only getting you that extra 10%, right? Like stuff's still gonna grow, it's still gonna look good. But that extra little bit's like, okay, it's more vibrant, it's better color, there's more polyps, right? So that's the thing you got to realize. Like, without doing all this stuff, you can still get, you know, on average, you know, 90% of the way there. This is just that extra little bit to push it. So food for thought.
No, you're 100% right.
Yeah.
It's something where you can definitely be successful in so many different ways. There's so many different processes, so many different methods you can take to be successful in this hobby. It's just how much you're doing it perfectly. I guess these corals grow substantially fast in the wild, and I still don't think we're quite at the levels that we can get. Look, I'm not sure if we can get to that point. We probably can one day.
I think it's because they have a constant supply of food source.
I don't only think that. Look, people have only just kind of gotten onto pH recently, and it's something that I've never concentrated on, but I've also
You didn't take your pH probe out to the barrier reef with you to check it?
No, not quite. So, but I've always been aware of what my pH is, and the good thing about where I live is my house is elevated up on a bit of a hill. We always get air through the house, so my tanks have always kind of sat at 8.3.
Yep.
But it's something where the more people realize that the access to fresh air out in the ocean is infinite. The surface water of the air, like the ocean goes for half the planet. That's the surface. So for them to have that much air exchange, I'm not sure whether we can emulate that to a proper degree. We can put all these things in which are boosting our pH, but that's a pH number. Is it actually doing? It's obviously something, but is it doing the same as it in the wild?
Yeah. Well, okay, so higher pH does make stuff grow faster. Low pH can make stuff more susceptible to, you know, bad bacterias, or having issues, right? or higher pH stuff just seems to be happier. So I definitely think that is half the battle. And I do think the other half of the battle, though, is because there's like a constant flow of particles and food and stuff in the ocean. Well, like you could have a constant flow of food in your tank, but then you're going to have crazy nutrient issues, right? So then you got to deal with it. So I think that's a blend of those two, I'd say, is probably a chunk of why stuff grows so much faster in the ocean versus our tanks.
Yeah, no, you're 100%. Yeah, hit the nail on the head. There's so many different factors, isn't there? It's just, I don't think we can
They just
emulate
got
that.
more water volume than us, so you can't beat it. I know.
Water volume is key, I guess.
Yeah. Go big as an ocean in your
We have 10 billion liters.
That'd be awesome. If you live by the beach, would you have a really big hose out to the ocean and just like ocean water and like water change with the ocean?
No, hell no.
No.
Hell no. Look, I see people do it all the time. I see all the places that collect water. It's basically collected from the shore.
Yeah.
It's something where a lot of people have had success with, but I've just always been really touchy about that subject because the water's what everything lives in, and
Yeah.
you can do so much to it. But hey, I remember when I started, I'm like, can I just go steal some sand from down at this beach? I'm 15 minutes from it.
Yeah.
But no, there's cigarette butts and people's feet juice and all that kind of stuff. Probably
Good
isn't
old
good
foot
to
juice.
your tank. Yeah, so it used to be everyone kind of thought that the water was collected from 20 k's offshore where there's no fuel and no pollution and no runoff.
Ideally.
It's just not the case. So
Yeah.
if that was the case, then maybe
Yeah.
I'd be more inclined to try it. And that just sounds stupid in a sense. But
Would if you lived on a beach in a non-busy area and it was like 100 foot out your door, but it was not like a big public area, or are you still like, nope, too much crap in the water, not worth it?
if I was L normal reefer, 100%. But I'm sitting here trying to somewhat keep crap out of my tank.
Yeah.
So in saying that, there's no way I'd risk my fish. Like that was a lesson learned. When I first got into the hobby, I went to go feed one of my tanks thinking I'm doing this awesome thing. I'm going to feed all my corals. They're going to look amazing. It was like my first week into reefing or something. And I was quarantining everything. And I had my little yellow-eyed coal tank in there. And yeah, I forgot to turn the pumps off and went shopping. So I came back to a dead coal tank. So that was the first lesson learned. Get DC power pumps and wave makers, that's for sure. So yeah, I replaced him, and that was lesson learned for sure. But there's so many things in this hobby that you can do wrong if you're not paying attention. So you just need to be a bit tuned on, I guess.
Yeah, that's fair. Living in Bali, UV sterilizer somewhat filtered. Yeah, I guess that could work. Just reading. If you lived on the ocean and not by a busy area, and you had a very, very long pipe and a UV sterilizer and some sediment filters, maybe. I don't know. I've always thought about
If I had a facility, I'd do that for sure, because there's less invested. But it's nowadays, I look at my main tank, and it's, I don't know about over there, but I've asked several people over the last couple of months, how much is a coal tank worth nowadays? And they literally said, find one.
Yeah.
The last one I saw was $1,700. And I paid $100 for that fish. So,
dang.
Yeah.
So white bristle-tooth in there somewhere.
It's specifically the bristle-tooths are still cheap. It's specifically the yellow-eyed coals because they come from Hawaii. Yellow tangs too. It's that whole Hawaii ban really did affect over here. People just kind of getting what they can, and it's understandable if there's a market out there, people willing to pay. Why not make more money? But at the same time, I feel like being a new person walking into a store and seeing a price tag that high on a fish or a coral is super off-putting.
Oh, it's a deterrent for sure. You're like $500 one fish? What? Yeah.
Exactly. So it's one of them things where it's understandable, but I feel
Mm,
like we're scaring off a lot of the hobbyists with these high prices of everyone wants to have all these special corals in. Not everyone, I shouldn't say that as a whole, but a lot
mm,
of the shops are just getting these special pieces in just to get special clientele in. That's fair enough, but I feel like it really is scaring off some of the new hobbyists. I'm not seeing as many people jump in the hobby as recent years, although there was COVID and everything, so that had something to do with that.
yeah, I mean, I the interesting thing, at least where I live, I find is very seasonal. Like in the summertime, it like dies down a bit, and then come winter when it's colder, everyone's in the house, and a lot more people give the tank a lot more love.
I feel like it's been more extreme this year because it's not only just coming into summer, but it's also kind of the end of COVID in a
Yeah,
sense. So everyone's gone back to their real lives. Everyone's getting less time and all that kind of thing. Um, Great time to be starting a business in the reef related space.
you
but
go, buddy.
no, we'll see. We'll see what happens. Hey.
Now, on the business note, you're giving away frag rack, aren't you? One of your snazzy racks. So I
Yes,
heard
look,
rumors of.
unfortunately, that draw ended on Monday.
Never
I,
mind
I
then. Forget I
know.
said
Look,
anything.
look, you're gonna be on my stream this weekend. So this weekend, my time, I believe it's
For the wheel
Friday
of
night
death. Yeah.
for you. Yeah, we're gonna draw the competition on
Hmm.
that on that stream, and if you're lucky enough, if you're there, for the people that are there, we might just do another competition and we
Hmm.
might just give some more stuff away. We'll see how we go. It's a little bit hard because I don't know pricing for sending things overseas, and obviously a lot of both of our viewers are American or Canadian or other places in the world, so
Yeah.
that is something I'd have to touch on first, obviously. But even if
Winner pays shipping. Hopefully it's not crazy.
look, hey, if we can get that sorted, I'm more than happy to give away something
Yeah.
for sure. Because just starting off and not having the buying power of some of these other places,
Hmm.
it's harder to start out for sure. So,
That's fair.
but I definitely want to help people get out there. That's kind of the point of it. I've lost so many frags to stupid things that shouldn't have happened from not having the right equipment, not blowing things down, having cars bump into each other, as I
Now,
previously said.
on that note, do you have the little like grabby stem holder things on all your frag racks so that stuff doesn't fall out and get knocked over? Good man. Good man.
You can flip my racks upside down and give them a good shake, and nothing will come out. Look, as long as you've got the standard type plugs.
Yep.
That's the hard thing, is
Hmm.
there's a bit of a difference in a lot of these plugs. The standard ones are basically right around, I believe it's 12 or 13 mil. I don't know what that is in inches, actually, about half an inch.
Hmm.
But there is a few ones outliers that are fatter or thinner, so it's hard
Hmm.
to do, but definitely the average plug sits in there very
I
well. That's
I
for
have
sure.
grown a good appreciation for the little grippy things because like back in the day, I only ever used to use like egg crate and stuff, right? But the power heads still knock stuff, pull stuff. Snail can still potentially knock out stuff. So the grippy ones, they're not moving. You don't have to worry about the flow turning a coral and they sting each other. So, anyways, side rant, but I appreciate the little grippers. They make a big
No, look,
difference.
it was one of the things that I made sure I didn't want to just. It's hard because I wanted to offer something to help the general public, the general hobbyist, but
Hmm.
I wanted to make sure that there was some value behind it, and that's something that was harder to find over here. Is the silicon gripper frag
Yeah.
racks or whatever, especially in magnetic ones. I'm
Hmm.
really against these suction cups.
Oh,
They're crap.
yeah.
You
You don't
stick
want
them on,
such cups.
and you'll come back to your tank. What you've got, even if you've only got two frags on there, you got $200 worth of corals on your frag rack. You really want to risk that over $30 for suction caps versus magnets?
Yeah.
It's one of them things. But actually have my magnets custom manufactured in China, copper
Hmm.
free. So even
Nice.
if something went wrong, there's no copper. There's obviously
Hmm.
iron and whatnot
Yeah.
going to be in it, but that is definitely
Pretty low risk then.
yeah, precisely. Look,
Nice.
I'm going to send you one of my racks and you'll see it. And I
Oh,
think you'll be really impressed with the magnetic pod. It's something where I I didn't want to do it wrong. So there's a lot of work goes into one of them things. I'm basically making nothing at the moment, but we'll see how it goes.
Much love, buddy. Much love. Yeah, and I'm curious. They look nice. So, all right. So apparently everyone's too late to enter, so I can't help you out there.
Sorry
But
about that one.
if
I really,
that's fine.
hey, that's how this all came up. This is all how it came up. Actually, is I messaged Devon on Sunday, I believe, and said, "Hey, Dev, I know you love the Wheel of Death / Fortune.
Oh, I
Do you
do.
want to come on my stream?" And he's like, funny that. Do you want to come on my stream? So that's how we got here. So the
Truth is,
competition was already done at that point. So that was my
that's
fault.
fair.
But as I said, we'll sort something out
All
on
right.
a Saturday. If you're in Australia, it'll be I believe just after lunchtime, and in Canada it'll be
Evening.
maybe 8 or 9 p.m. or something. Whatever
All right.
time Dev can stay up till.
Yeah, we'll
Come
find
meet
out.
us over there. I might get him to say a swear word or something.
All right, Niagara fire corals. Want to see some frag racks? So I'm just pulled up your Facebook page. So here's some
Yeah,
of the
cool.
different ones. I'm just randomly
So
clicking
they're
through.
just the standard range ones. The smaller ones are made to fit side by side in an esky. For some of them things, I actually got contacted by Sam Parker the other on
Nice.
one of my comments, and he wants me to make a circular one to fit into
Nice.
buckets, your normal salt buckets. So that's something that we're doing together
Beauty.
over the next kind of couple of weeks. So that's
Yep.
something that'll be available very shortly, because I can't stand it. You go to the fish shop and look,
Yep.
I don't just buy it because of the way I do everything. I don't just
Mm.
buy 1 or 2 corals at once. I buy 20 or 30. So
Yeah.
it's you get home and these plastic bags in my bathtub really upset me. There's all these plastic bags half full of water. You're like, what the do I do with this? It's and the shops say they take them back or whatever, but it's just something where the more we can prevent single-use plastic, that's something I'm well for.
Well, especially if you're going to a show or something bigger, I think it's sweet. Like the bucket one's a great way to do it, right? Especially now, one other thing, make them stackable so you can have double layers if you want to for lots of stuff.
Yeah, well, that's
Yeah.
exactly what they are. They're stackable, the square ones for the esky, but it'll be the same process. I didn't think of the general public as much for them when I was making
Well,
it, because
I would
I
if you're
thought,
making it anyways.
yeah, no, I think a general public could use that size in their tanks, but a
Yeah.
shop could get that size to transport corals in between, like say a wholesaler or whatever. But
Mhm. Beauty. Niagara Fire Corals, what's the webpage? I put it in the video description. So if you expand it and
it's
scroll down, there's all Rookie's various links. So you can Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, Acrylics Fun, all that stuff's in there. So check her out.
yeah, so Reef Acrylic. So keep an eye out for it. I'll definitely be pushing it out there. That's for sure. I only just launched about I believe 3 weeks ago. So we're just in our infancy now, but we're a lot of the local stores are really supporting. That's really
Yeah.
nice. A lot of them have asked for wholesale, but I just don't have the margins at this point.
Yeah.
So that's something I'll be looking to down the track. But I just wanted to try it out myself and see if, the few people that I have sent products to online, not stores, every single one of them has messaged me back and said, "Wow, the quality. These dosing containers you're showing, I'm
Mm-hmm.
90 kilos, and I happily stand on top of them."
I was going to say
And
that those are
I
slick
jump.
dosing containers.
Yeah, yeah, little tiny dosing container. I'll jump on it because
Yeah.
that's how solid they are. That's how
I
confident I am.
I appreciate that they're actually rectangles because so many of them are cylinders and they're not as space efficient a stand, right? Where if
It's
you
just
have the
wasting
rectangle
space,
ones,
right?
yeah, it's you get more volume for the same amount of space. But
The
anyways,
reason why that is
yeah.
it is so much cheaper from a manufacturing point of view, getting an acrylic cylinder that you can chop at both ends and glue a bit of stuff
Top and
onto
bottom
each
one.
end.
I guess that
Whereas
makes
if
sense.
you're talking about a rectangle, you've got 4 joints to glue in that. You've got a top and a bottom as well.
All
So
right, makes sense.
there's a lot more to it. So I've tried to price everything competitively, but
Mhm.
in a sense, there's just it's expensive over here as a manufacturer. I look at the
Yeah.
price and I kind of whew, get taken back. But then also in a way, I do the maths, and it's like, oh, well, fuck, I'm not making much of this, so we'll get it out. Obviously, I'll have bigger margins once I start buying more stuff, but
Hmm.
I need to prove it work first. So that's
That's
one of the
fair.
things.
Well, it looks nice from all the stuff I've seen so far. So sweet.
No, I appreciate it. And there's heaps
Yeah.
of things, as I said, I can make and have made. I've got a standard frag tank that we'll be putting up there. It probably won't be for about 6 months. We've got 100 litre salt mixing vessels and all that kind of stuff that are made out of 10 mil acrylic. They're really
Oh,
nice, but
nice.
again, they're expensive. It
Yeah.
costs probably $100 for one of them, but that's
Hmm.
10 mil acrylic. That'll literally
Solid.
last your life and then
Yeah.
someone else's. So
Yeah. Ah, that's cool. That's fun. I like that you can make all this stuff. I want to try building some big
I was
crazy
I was
acrylic.
a I was a glazier as by trade, and that's when I first
What
got
is
into
that?
the hobby.
Glazier.
So install glass. I used to
Ah.
cut and install glass and
Oh,
whatnot.
okay.
So making a tank out of glass was absolutely nothing to me. It's kind of like can throw it together in a couple of hours. So I wanted a
Mhm.
bit of a challenge. And I've also seen everyone reckons glass is so strong and whatnot. It is, don't get me wrong, until you hit it in the wrong spot. You
Yeah.
hit it on one of the edges. So
Yep.
that's how we pop a sheet. Just tap it on the edge,
Hmm.
boom, the whole panel. So it's yeah, I'm really clumsy. This room's quite small, so that was a factor in why I built an acrylic tank. A, I wanted the challenge, but B, it was I've bumped into the thing hundreds of times, and I'm pretty confident that if I did it made it out of glass, it would have been probably broken by now. So
Dang.
what are a few scratches in between friends? Look, it's people think acrylic scratches so easily,
I
and
do too. That's why I'm scared of an acrylic tank.
you've got to use the right tools. It's about using the right tool for the job. It's something where if you're scratching acrylic,
Yeah.
you practically would be scratching glass too.
Really? Okay.
Pretty
So
much.
so it's not
There's
as
different
bad as one
grades.
thinks.
There's different grades of acrylic. So
Hmm.
obviously you're much cheaper acrylic. You have extruded and you have cast. Now
Yeah.
extruded is pulled out, extruded in a process. Cast is cast in a mold. So the
Hmm.
cast is always going to be a better product. A
Ah,
lot of
okay.
products are only made
Makes
out of extruded.
yeah.
Not so much tanks, but smaller stuff
Hmm.
are made out of extruded, and it's a lot different. It's a lot different. It's a different animal altogether, pretty much. There's different. It's a plastic, so it's going
Yeah.
to have different hardnesses. So the cheaper your acrylic is in general,
Hmm.
it will scratch easier.
Okay, good
But
to know.
in saying that, you can have an acrylic panel scratch free again in half an hour, whereas try and do that
True.
with glass.
Yeah, it's easy to buff it out. Now,
It's
okay.
not only that, it's the benefits of it. It keeps in heat so much better. You
Yeah.
don't lose so much heat. The optical clarity through it is
Hmm.
just so much better. You don't, especially trying to take photos, you don't get the off center angle from the glass. You don't
Not
get the
really.
green haze from all your glass. There's
Yeah.
so many benefits to acrylic. I don't know why more people don't
Because
do
we're
it.
afraid of
And there's a reason.
scratches. That's why.
Yeah, but there's a reason why all these massive tanks are made out of acrylic. It's because it's a sturdy product. Like
That's fair.
big public aquariums need to take on liability, and a lot of the times, glass would just make their whole business not work. So
One day
insane.
I'll try acrylic. I'll be brave and try it. Although my stuff's
It's not
acrylic, and
cheap, but once you get to a certain size, it's actually cheaper than glass.
well, I have a custom acrylic sump that was friggin' expensive, but it's beautiful, and I don't think I have any scratches in it. So yeah, fair. I guess I worry more than I need to. Fair
You
points.
just got to be careful. It's like you got little snails and stuff on the side of the
Yeah,
thing. Don't go scraping it because yeah. But that's common sense, isn't it?
pretty much. That's don't use your algae scraper if there's snails on it. I've learned that lesson.
No, no. Look, and I don't know what algae scraper works with acrylic. Admittedly, I've never used an algae scraper. I always
What
just
do you
use
use?
a unimpregnated magic eraser. Literally
Lanolin
what I
sponge.
use. Yeah,
Yep,
exactly.
beauty.
So you get them off eBay for $15 for 100 or whatever.
We're gonna have
Last
to
year.
have an Adventures of Acrylic live stream one day.
Yeah, yeah, no. Holy dooly, have we been an hour and a
I
half already?
I know.
Mm.
You're off the hook soon. Because I know.
No, no,
It's
it's
already-
fine. But our streams always end up like this, and
I
it's
know.
it's kind of a bad thing because then people probably stop watching because we just start rambling on for hours.
Well, it's good general reef chat. You never know
No,
what you're gonna get. You never know what
I
rabbit hole you're
love
gonna end up in.
as we said, it's been too long in between beers, and we might fix that this weekend.
All right, sounds good. Okay, so on the weekend, I'm pretty sure it's Friday night, but Saturday for you because you're into the future. I'm in the past. Give away your frag racks. I'll probably come on your stream, and then maybe we'll do some other fun giveaway in the future for something. We'll come up with
Yeah,
something
for sure.
good. Yeah,
We'll have to yeah, we'll do some stuff in the future. As I said,
we'll brainstorm later.
I'll get on to sending you a rack so you can kind of check out the quality.
Mighty kind.
Make sure you know what you're looking at.
Mighty kind. Yeah, you make cool stuff. I like it. I wish you were closer, but ocean in the middle. Yeah.
It's the same as always.
Yep. All right, buddy. I shall let you go for today, but I appreciate you coming on today. It was good as always. If you do want to check out Rookie Reefer, who's not a rookie, even though he claims to be, I think that's his general disclaimer. But all the links to all his socials and his acrylic stuff is in the description. So be sure to check it out. If you enjoyed it, hit that like button. We'll see you guys on next week's live stream.